Hey, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? I just want to make sure everyone can hear me good and that everything is crystal clear. Hello, hello, good morning. Let's see if, hey, good afternoon, brother. How are you, Lee? Can you hear me good? I just want to make sure I can hear you clearly. Good. All right. I'm also going to move the microphone to have it in front of me. So let's give everyone a few minutes to join and then we can, then we'll get started. If there's any questions you want me to go through now, I can do it. What's up, Luke? How are you, brother? Okay, so let's go through. We have a lot of questions. Hey, Chris, what's up, man? How are you? Good morning. Good morning. I am just getting myself set up here. I'm more or less ready to go. I have our portfolio. What's up, Sam? How are you? Hi, Machi. Machi. I love that name. Okay. So let's see who's joining. Okay, we just had a massive surge of people. Hello. Welcome, guys. So we have a huge amount of questions we want to go through, but we can also please ask them here. So I'll be more than happy to go through them. I just want to give people I want to make sure we give people enough time to be able to come in and have an opportunity to ask questions here too. So let me see. Yes, perfect. This is perfect. I like this setup here. We got it. How's everyone doing? I hope everyone's good. It's a nice day today. It's always so awkward doing live streams. Oh, something I definitely need to get used to doing. And no matter how many of these I've done, it's always a little odd. If there's any technical difficulties or audio challenges, please let me know. I hope you can all hear me clearly. I think you can. Lee said that he can hear me, so we should be good. Let's give everyone a few more minutes to join. And let's see. Let me post it here. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Okay. Let's see. A few people here. That's good. If you guys want to ask what tickers we'll be covering, we have a huge amount of questions that people have sent through, which is really good. And this is not all of it. So I don't know. My goal is to get through all of these. Some of these questions I could it's gonna take me like half an hour to answer, but I'm going to keep them very concise and short. But the questions that I'm seeing are, what's your opinion on utility coins, on fundamental metrics for different projects that seem to be promising? So instead, I'm going to go through my watch list. There's questions like, what should I do with Doge, Welsh, and Omnom? What are your thoughts on Doge? Should I do capital reallocation, capital deployment, or sit and hold? There's questions about, is this a good time to launch a meme or not? What are my thoughts on synthetic dollars? Delta neutral basis coins, like USDN and Athena and some of those other pseudo stable synthetic dollars. There's also questions about what are my thoughts on potential bearish divergence on the monthly and ETH lower highs. I'll cover all of those. There's also questions about token audit procedures, questions about, what are my projections or predictions around what are some potential other ETFs that could be approved. And so I'll go through that. This is interesting. I like these are all excellent questions. And my questions around investor sentiment metrics, how to gauge market cycle health. So I'll go through those. Quality high caps. You see, there's it's a lot of questions. So I'm gonna make sure I do my best to go through these. It's probably gonna take a while. So so this is good. I think we could probably get started. Yeah, we have already a lot of people who joined. So, okay. So let me just first try to make this as useful for everyone as possible by just sharing my views on the market. My views really have not changed. Like, I think everything that's unfolding is more or less what I was hoping and was expecting was going to happen. But trying to predict times is a fool's errand. You know, trying to predict exactly when a market is going to flip bullish or bearish, I think is a hopeless endeavor. It's not something that I'm particularly fond of doing. You know what I can do is probably I need to zoom in. Maybe it'll be more helpful that way, so people can actually see what I'm talking about. Okay, so when I'm looking at the market, let me move this. Yes, this is much better this way. So when I'm looking at the market, I try to look at the overall market trend on a weekly basis, and I try to make sure that the view is set to Heikin-Ashi because this really does a an effective job at screening out a lot of the noise, and it really improves my signal to noise ratio, and it tries to smoothen out the interweek red to green flips that you see, typically of traditional candles. So when you look at traditional candles, you see it's like green, red, green, and it's constantly flipping, right? It's constantly shifting. But when you set it to Heikin-Ashi, what it's doing is it's taking the entirety of the candle into consideration. So it's looking at the low and the high and the close and the open, rather than just the open and close, which is what traditional candles do. And that's how the colors are determined, right? So Heikin-Ashi, I think, is extremely helpful. However, it's it's more of a lagging indicator and not a leading indicator of price action. And that to me is helpful because this market moves so incredibly violently and so rapidly. And it's important to just keep that in mind, right? When you're looking at overall trends. So for me, I could see, and I shared this, right, is that we had a clear fundamental break to the upside in October of last year, and that we've essentially just been trending higher, right? Um, and every time that we've been challenged, we hit the support and we maintain it, right? And this has happened time and time again. However, now we broke out of this upwards channel, and now we're just in this consolidation zone. And now that we're in this consolidation zone, my hope is that if we continue to trend lower on a weekly basis, and I'm hoping that we hold support around 2.1 trillion, right? These are the same levels I had set in March when I issued my warning that the market is becoming extremely overheated and greed was running at a close to all-time high level. There was just basically people who were just being arrogant and just like obnoxiously, bullish and perma-bulls, right? And and I told everyone, take profit aggressively. Like this market is definitely in for a pretty significant downturn. And then I shared that my levels was around 2.14, 2.13, and we hit it and we went even below that. And now we're right back to close to where we were back then. So that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping we hold support around 2.1. If we don't, then there's no reason why we won't experience a flush down to 1.9, right? And this is not just, arbitrarily made just from price. Like I'm also looking at historical levels of support, and it's around 1.9 is like a very strong level of support. 1.79 is another level of strong support back from 3 years ago, Now, I really hope and pray we don't break those levels, right? I don't see why we would at this point. So that's my thoughts on the total crypto market cap. But to me, I see the Bitcoin ETF was being approved in January. Trading began fairly quickly immediately. Then you have the Ethereum ETF being approved. Trading hopefully going to begin in 2 to 3 weeks, sometime in July. And then you have the fact that both presidential candidates, right, Biden and Trump, have now suddenly flipped to be, crypto bulls, and that has fundamentally changed the overall sentiment of the entire sector as a whole. And now you're seeing people who who themselves are like now intrigued by crypto as a sector, and they're interested in it. And you're seeing a massive amount of institutional funds entering and injecting into the space. You're seeing like more and more regulated, licensed, and insured and institutionally approved on-ramp solutions through these ETFs, and that's bringing in a huge amount of funds. So those are all like massive, massive fundamental metrics that I'm tracking that are hugely positive to the sector. And to me, I can't understand why we would not be experiencing a higher move up sometime into the future of this year and going into next year. So I'm not subscribing to this bearish bias that many others are seeing. Some people are fearful that we're going to have like a flush down to 40K. It's not completely unprecedented historically. We've absolutely had countless flush downs of 40%. I mean, that's not something that hasn't happened. You know, it absolutely has happened. And if that were to happen, we would basically be going from 2.719 all the way down to 1.6, right? But again, this has happened in the past. It's not like it hasn't happened, and it's not like it hasn't happened during actual turns too, during market cycle bull runs. Like if you look at Bitcoin, it's had multiple 20, 30, 40% pullbacks, right? During the actual cycle. So if you just let's look at how it did in 2017, right? And these downturns are terrifying. I know they are. So like in 2016, it went from 800 all the way down to 430. So this is a 41% decline. Then another one. This is just 2 weeks, right? It went from 1200, which basically broke the all-time high in January of 2017. Then it went down 35%. Then again, we recovered. Then again, we experienced another 35, 40%. So the trend is very consistent. It's like when you have a big move up, you had this 35, 40% flush back afterwards. And it's just important to keep that in perspective, right? It doesn't matter what people are saying. Well, the fundamental structure is broken. We're going to go down to 20,000 again. The bull market's done. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like the point is that we're having new capital infusion into the sector. We're having massive institutional demand increasing. We're having publicly traded corporations who have their own book of charter and their own accounting rules that they have to adhere to, who are now having some capital shifted from their treasury into Bitcoin ETFs and eventually, hopefully, into Ethereum ETFs. We have so many bullish contributing factors that I don't see. I don't see how anyone could like possibly be bearish like into the long term. And then if you look back at like 2021, it's the same. Like we had good flush outs, right? It was like back in 2020, we had the massive COVID collapse, but then we also had in August, we had a nice little 20% pullback, right, in Bitcoin. And then again, we had another pullback back in January of 2021, right after we broke the all-time high. We had another like 30% pullback. And for us, when you look at where we are right now, we haven't really like experienced much of a pullback at all. Like we went from 40, it was like 47, 48,000 all the way down to 39,000, and everyone was completely terrified. And then I look at where we were before, back in March, right? It went from 73,500 all the way down to 60,000. Everyone was terrified. It's only a 17% pullback. So for me, historically, it is not unprecedented in any way for us to be able to go from 73,700, right? So let's do that. So 73,700 all the way down, let's say 40%. So it's like worst case scenario is around 43. And I shared this. I said worst case scenario, I don't see it possibly going below 42, 43,000, 40,000. Best case scenario is maybe we don't go below 54,000. But if we do, it's again, this is not uncharted territories, right? These are not situations where we're not prepared for those types of drawdowns, right? And when I say drawdowns, I mean like experiencing unrealized losses, where you're just holding positions underwater and they're in the red, and you're just not sure like what to do, but you haven't realized the loss by selling, right? Um, so like if we go down to 51,000, that is absolutely fair game. That is like normal operating conditions, in my opinion. So yeah, those are my thoughts on like Bitcoin. And then when I look at Ethereum, I the thing with Ethereum is that it's been in an upwards channel since October, and overall, though, for 2 years, Ethereum Bitcoin has not done well, right? And I've shared my views on this for well over 2 years. Is that I was expecting a multi-year downtrend, and my main target for Ethereum Bitcoin has already been hit. Right, this was my zone, 0.045 to 0.035, and we breached it. So we hit the top portion of it through a wick, but we still actually hit it. And we had a pretty healthy bounce. And then now we're consolidating. And when we're consolidating, let's look at it on a daily basis. Sort of just been, consolidating. Now we broke out on a multi-day downtrend, but now we're again retesting it. If we can successfully retest this downwards parallel channel that you're seeing, and we continue to move higher, that would be very good for altcoins as a whole. Because to me, Ethereum, of course, is like the earliest indicator of the health of the entire macro altcoin market. But Ethereum by itself is inadequate to look at. You also have to look at Solana. So when I look at Solana, it's overall on a weekly basis, I mean, rock solid. Absolutely nothing you can say on Solana. And then Solana relative to Bitcoin, it's done exceptionally well, right? It's done exceptionally well since October of last year. But then around April, we broke down below that upwards trend, right? And now we're in this consolidating sideways moving range between 0.002 and 0.0028. And right now, we keep hitting this support, right? And does that mean that we're not going to be able to break out of the support, or we're not going to be able to bounce back from it, or are we going to break down from it? It's hard to say, but at the same time, every time that we've been hitting this support since December, we've been able to bounce back and have a healthy recovery. And when did we have meme coins go absolutely bonkers? Is when Solana Bitcoin generally has been trending up and up to the right, right? Also, we were close to all-time high, Solana versus Bitcoin, right? So this is the Solana market cap divided by the Bitcoin market cap. And this is one of the main metrics that I like to track to be able to just gauge the health of where we are. And when I look at Solana Bitcoin, it's at this point, we just have to keep a close eye on it, because we don't want it to be in this kind of zone, right? Like it was in 2022, where we were in this range. So I think the best way of explaining it is this way. Like we hit a market cycle top, and then we were in this sideways range, and then we didn't hold support the fourth time it hit. And that's what I don't want to happen. I don't want the fourth time we hit this level of support to break below, and then we just have Solana bleed relative to Bitcoin. Because then if you have Solana bleed relative to Bitcoin, then you have Ethereum bleed relative to Bitcoin, then you have Doge bleeding relative to Bitcoin, and you have altcoins that get completely massacred. So I'm hoping that we have one small mini meme season left sometime this year, and like hopefully in the summer. And there's already some indications that we could hopefully experience that. So those are really the main things that I'm seeing with Solana Bitcoin. So when someone asks like, what are the metrics you're looking at? I'll go through them, but there's just a lot. I mean, I could spend like 10 hours going through them, but the general ones are like total crypto market cap, Bitcoin USD, Ethereum USD, Ethereum BTC, Solana BTC, Doge BTC. So this is another like metric that I track very, very closely. And this metric basically helps me see where we are with meme coins, right? And every single time that we've had a sustained altcoin boom, it was always a precursor for that altcoin boom was Doge completely outperforming Bitcoin. We break out of that multi-year downtrend, right? And you see that back in 2020. You see that back from like the beginning of time. So it's like if you go back to like all the way back to 2016. So it's like every single time that you see Doge finally break out, right? And let's say here. So if whenever you see Doge break out and completely crush Bitcoin, that's when you have the most, attractive risk adjusted returns for altcoins, for everything outside of Bitcoin. And then every time, it's happened time and time again, right? It happened in March 2017, it happened in 2016, it happened in November 2017, it happened again here in August 2018 as part of a short-term relief rally that we experienced. It happened again in like September 2019. It happened again in like December 2020. And when this happened, right, this was like right after Bitcoin broke its all-time high of 20,000, which a lot of people were in complete disbelief of, right? Now, that's why for me I track this metric very closely. And this happened again. This happened again in 2022, but this was a false breakout, right? But still, altcoins did really well right here, right before the FTX and SPF debacle. And then again, see, so there's a few false breakouts, right? This one, I don't even consider it a false breakout because you still experienced a massive exploding 4 or 5x here. And altcoins many of them went 5, 6, 7x. But to me, I'm hoping this is not a false breakout, right? Because we were in this long channel for a long time. We had a false breakout. We continued to collapse. We had a false breakout, continued to collapse. And then now we're close to retesting 162 Satoshi, which is like extremely close to retesting the same level we were back at in February of 2024, right? So I'm just hoping that if this continues to trend lower and lower and lower, because we were in this a clear triangular formation that you're seeing here, and we broke down below it, right? And we broke below another level of key support. So if we are going to continue to trend lower, I really would love for this to stop at 162, like absolute maximum. I don't want it to go below that. If it goes below that, then I think we're in for pretty significant blood show. But I'm hoping we don't. I hope we can hold support here, which was close to the previous all-time high that we had back in 2017 and that we broke in 2021. So Doge BTC is another important metric to me. Doge ETH is another very important metric. And because Doge ETH shows me, how aggressive can we be with meme coins relative to the king of altcoins. And you'll see that when this breaks out, it typically reaches like market cycle top, right? So when we see a market cycle top is when Doge completely crushes Bitcoin and completely crushes Ethereum. And when did that happen? Like literally right like clockwork. It's like right on May 3rd, May 10th, right? And that's when we had the total crypto market cap at like it was like 2.7 trillion. But yeah, so these are the metrics I track. And then I track many other ones as well, but hopefully that helps. Hopefully that, what's up, brother? How's it going? PX, and Connor and Polly and everyone. Thank you for joining, guys. So I have a lot of questions. I'm just trying my best to go through all of them. I'm generally giving like an overall summary of the main metrics that I look at. But yeah, so hopefully that helps. Other metrics that I look at is I'm also tracking Bitcoin dominance very, very closely because this has been in a 2-year upwards channel and it's been trending higher and higher. And now we broke below it right back in April 2024, and we've been in this consolidating range. And now we continue to test this resistance. And if we break above it, then and we re-enter it, then hopefully my target is correct, which is around 58 to 62%. And if that happens, it looks like we're pushing it out further and further out. But again, I don't try to predict time. I think trying to predict when something will happen is it's like an unrealistic endeavor. It's like this unachievable dream, right? It's better to just react to where you feel the general market is, and then track ratios. So that's what I've been really closely tracking is ratios. So Bitcoin dominance, I feel the market itself is not going to be consistently healthy until Bitcoin dominance rises. And why this is important is because this shows you the overall health and stability of the market. And you don't want it to be run by altcoins. You don't want Bitcoin to only be controlling half of the entire crypto sector. Because in reality, what is the one coin that actually has clear utility? It's a global payment processing system, which is Bitcoin, right? I mean, there's no question about it whatsoever. But it's an inadequate solution for a lot of what we're trying to accomplish in the group, right? And what we're trying to do with digital assets. And we want more aggressive returns. That's why we're focusing on altcoins. So I would be much more bullish on altcoins as a whole when Bitcoin dominance is at like 60% and above. And in the past, that has always marked where you could be very aggressive on altcoins, right? And this has happened back in right here, right? So in December 2020, it reached 73%, but I don't think we're going to go back to those levels again because now we have stable coins. People are using stable coins a lot more than they ever have. And it's important to take that out of the picture. So you're really truly only looking at Bitcoin's dominance without the noise of stable coins, because people are using stable coins more and more now to hold stable assets rather than just holding them in Bitcoin like they used to. So to account for that, I exclude it from the formula, right? And that's what you're seeing here. So when you're looking at Bitcoin dominance excluding stable coins, I'm still expecting it to go to like 62 to 66. It may go higher, but at this point is where I'm hoping things are going to be healthier. Now, another thing I want to share that everyone keeps asking me about is like, what are views on the overall market? Another view. So you have like the Bitcoin ETF being approved. You have the Ethereum ETF being approved. You have the institutional on-ramping of funds and capital from publicly traded corporations, from endowment funds, enrichment funds, like massive capital allocation from like asset managers, fund advisors. They're all shifting capital towards crypto, right? Then you also have the fact that we continue to issue stablecoins into circulation. This is, to me, this is a massive precursor to what things to come, because we need more and more capital entering the sector. So as long as this continues to trend higher and higher, I don't see any reason why we would ever need to be bearish. And we had a little bit of some oscillation that we're seeing here on like a more daily basis, but ultimately it's trending higher and higher, and we just cracked 150 billion. Now, historically, is 150 billion, it's an all-time high, right? The highest we went was 143. So to me, I just don't see why everyone is so incredibly fearful at this point. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Bitcoin is literally close to its true all-time high of 73,500, and we're above the April 2021 all-time high. And I don't see why people are fearful, So of course we could experience another flush and we can experience another drawdown, but I'm just not personally concerned, right? I'm here to share my thoughts on what I feel and what I'm doing. I'm not personally that concerned to have drawdowns of like 50, 60% on small caps, micro caps. Like, that's the name of the game. That comes with the territory. That's the expectation with coins that are inherently non-utility driven and meme coin driven, is that they're based upon social phenomenon. They're based upon social movement. So like, if people are not if people are just giving up their bags and like whenever it's down 20, 30%, then I don't think this like space is for you. Even if it's down 50, 60%, then I think you need to look back and take a step back and think about, what should I have done differently? Should I have taken a profit more aggressively? Should I have protected my gains? Should I have not over invested so much into any one particular coin? Like, you need to make sure that your percent of equity towards any one particular position is not outrageously high. Like, you shouldn't be putting 50% of your portfolio in some micro cap and small cap that's market cap is 10 million and below, right? Because those are illiquid coins that are not even battle tested. They're not stress tested. They haven't gone through like multiple market cycles. So those you want to invest in them like 0.5, 1%, 2% maximum. And then when you're on profit, take the profit, you know? So those are my thoughts. Now, I have a lot more questions, but those are the metrics. Another metric I track is stablecoin dominance ratio. So this is really, really, really important to track because you generally want stablecoin dominance to be trending lower if we want to be in an altcoin bull run, and you don't want it to be trending higher. And you can see it's been trending lower and lower and lower since October, right? And that's what we want. We don't want it to be trending higher. If we're trending it higher, that means people are shifting capital from crypto assets to stablecoin assets, right? And that's not what we want. And it's been like that since March, right? You can see the trend shifting, and you can see we have a higher high and a higher low. And then we had a potentially testing and validating lower wick candle here, and then we continue to trend higher. And now we're back down, and now we're trending back up. So if we look at it on the daily basis, it's, you know, this is where the fearfulness is coming from. People are just capitulating and surrendering their bags. And it's just, you know, you have to consider where you are in your personal circumstances. And we'll go through specific projects now, but I just want to make sure that I think hopefully that answers some of the people's questions. And if there are any other questions you haven't posted, please post them. So I think it would be helpful to go through them. There's a lot more that I'm looking at, but I can keep going through these. But I want to see if there's any other so another metric I'm tracking, and I shared this in the market analysis, is this one. So this is GameStop versus Doge. So let me share with you. This is honestly one of the most interesting patterns I found. So when you look at GameStop and you look at it on a weekly basis, and you add Doge, okay? So let me show you. So if you add Doge, so let's add Doge, and let's add it as a new price scale, and let's move this to the right and set it to logarithmic so you can see it properly. Okay, so this is GameStop. Now, some of you have asked me, why am I focusing some time on GameStop and what is GameStop? So GameStop is a store where you can buy games from. And at some point, like if you're like basically 20 and above or 25 and above, you've gone to a GameStop in some time in your life. And this is something that like is I'm deeply fond of. And there's like, you know, there's like nostalgia when somebody mentions GameStop. And it's something to me that I absolutely love. I used to like have some of the best memories going to GameStop, and then my dad or my uncle would buy me like a new gaming console, like PlayStation 1, 2, 3, like, and then we get games from GameStop. It was like the best thing in the world, right? It was like the best memories. So this guy, Roaring Kitty, he basically felt very strongly and passionate about GameStop, and he could see that the float was high, right? That basically people's short interest was outrageously, unsustainably high. That big, massive venture capitalists and private equity firms were basically leverage shorting GameStop, and they were expecting it to go bankrupt. And if it goes bankrupt, then they wouldn't even have to repay what they owed in shorts, right? They didn't have to actually buy the stock in any particular position to close the shorts. And then what happened was he basically like mobilized a massive movement, right? And then he completely exploded the price of GameStop all the way up to 120. Now, when I look back, well, how did Dogecoin, you know, behave in those times, right? So you can see Dogecoin is an orange. And what happened was when GameStop was in a multi-year downtrend since 2015. Okay, so you're talking about a 5-year downtrend. And every time that we tried to break out of that downtrend, we got rejected. So we got rejected every time. We got rejected here. We got rejected here. Got rejected here. And then here we got rejected the first time, but then the second time. So basically the fourth real consistent attempt to break out of this downtrend. We broke out of it. That was back in like September of 2020. Now look at Doge. So when we broke out of it, Doge went down. Right? It went down around like 10, almost 15%. And then Doge around 4 to 6 weeks after, maybe even 8 weeks after, that's when it exploded. And when Doge exploded, the entire crypto sector went absolutely berserk, right? And are we going to have a repeat of that? It's hard to say, but it's also hard to ignore the similarities in the pattern. I mean, we have a 3-year, multi-year downtrend with GameStop, as you can see, right? Lower highs, lower lows, and a constrained downwards channel, right? Then we finally break out of that trend back in May of 2024, okay? Then we have this massive exploding wick all the way up to $65. Then we retest it, and we actually hold it as support. And then now, looks like we're going to potentially retest the support again for a third time now in a month. If we can continue to hold this support, this would be very, very good for Dogecoin. Now, what does this mean in practical terms? I'm hoping that for Dogecoin, we end up continue to going sideways, and then hopefully we have a massive move up. And if we have a massive move up, I just don't see why. We can't do that, and why that wouldn't be a precursor for a meme coin season, right? That's why. So when someone's asking me, why do you foresee a meme coin season? It's because there's the confluence of all these factors happening together. You're having stablecoin issuance rising. You're seeing Ethereum ETF being approved, trading, hopefully going to begin in like 2-3 weeks, right? So those are two factors. Third factor, precursor of GameStop breaking out of its multi-year downtrend. Fourth factor, you're seeing Solana, Bitcoin being in a consolidating range. If we can just stay in that range, or if we can break out of that range, it's a very good indicator. Fifth, we're seeing Ethereum, Bitcoin finally having some resurgence of life, right? Some energy for it to push higher and higher. So those are all very good indicators of a potential meme coin season that we can experience. And if that happens, I'm going to be aggressively taking profit into that, because I don't feel like that would be the market cycle top, and I think that's a very good opportunity to restructure your portfolio as you see fit, and to not be so over indexed to one particular coin. So if you're putting 25%, 50% of your portfolio in Boop or into Mother, then something's wrong, right? Then you're not using disciplined risk management. And if you did that and now you're regretting doing that, it's okay. We've all gotten our asses handed to us in this sector. I think everyone needs to understand that we've been raped in this sector. We've all experienced it. So it's just a matter of time. It's if you haven't yet, you're going to experience it, and you're going to have an 85, 95% drawdown. You're going to be like, what the fuck did I do wrong? You know what I mean? Excuse my language, but what could I have done better or differently to make sure that I avoided being in that situation, right? And it's okay. So it's try not to panic, take a breath, and everything is going to be fine. But you need to make sure you keep the bigger picture in perspective here, and make sure that you're protected and that you're not so over-indexed to one trade, right? The reason that I'm not concerned now and why I'm happy with my portfolio is that I'm really only down 25, almost 30%. Sometimes it went down to 35%. And that's because I've diversified my portfolio to make sure that I have balanced position, that I'm hedged against any massive meme coin downturn, right? I still have Bitcoin. I still have some stable coins. I have a steady position in Solana because I'm using the momentum trading engine, which has been doing exceptionally well, exceptionally well. I mean, it's literally given a 70x since 2023. So if you haven't looked at that, I would strongly encourage you to look at that. I mean, there's not much more I can do than to just suggest that you take a look at that, at that momentum trading engine and what it's doing. So yeah, it's good. I'm getting a lot more questions now. So let me get past this. I think we're finished with this. If there are any questions on that, just please ask, and I we'll make sure to cover them right away. So another thing is let's go through these questions. So interested in your opinion on utility coins at the moment, looking at the next 6 to 12 months. So the coins that I have personally reviewed, screened, vetted, approved, and I've met many of the founders of these teams and gotten to know the communities and to see and to observe them firsthand, it would be these ones that are on the crypto watch list. So these are in the Blockcircle portfolio tool, and they're in the watch list. And the ones in green are the ones that I'm particularly intrigued by. So like I'll show you some. So Taki Games, right? Taki Games is very interesting. So it's like a token powered social network. It's backed by OKX, Coinbase, Kraken. I mean, these are all tier 1 regulated, licensed, insured, top-notch centralized cryptocurrency exchanges. They have venture arms. Those venture arms are very strict with what projects they review and approve and invest in. So those are the ones that those are the ones that are interesting, right? I think GameFi and SocialFi as investment narratives are hugely underplayed. They're underplayed at this particular time. Like no one is talking about them. There's absolutely no emphasis on them. There's just really no mention, right, of SocialFi and GameFi again. And I think there's gonna be a return of these platforms, right? And I just love how low their value. So if you go to the watch list and just click Taki Games, you'll see, like, look at the market cap. It's at 20 million. I mean, literally, even fully diluted value, it's at 50 million. And if you look at the tokenomics, they might have some data here on the tokenomics. They don't, but you can look at CryptoRank. So if you go let's go look at CryptoRank. That'll hopefully give us so these are some funding insights. That's good. This gives you the IDO, IEO prices that we had. And you can look at the team. You could look at everything here, right? And I would just say, so these are like the projects that I like, so that's one of them. Another one is Missouri, right? Evmos. So like, this is very interesting. This is like, there's absolutely going to be a time where Cosmos and it's inter-blockchain like consortium, and it's like interplanetary like pursuits and so forth is going to have a resurgence. And when it does, EVMOS, right, Ethereum-based multi-blockchain interoperable solution, I think will do well. Subquery network is interesting to me. Subquery network was created by one of the main founders of one of the most established infrastructural like apps that was created, and it's a competitor to the Graph, right? So I share my notes here, right, in column V, right? So column V, and I share like why I'm intrigued by this project. Like the Graph was valued at multiple $1 billion. So when maybe the Graph has a resurgence, and if it does, I don't see why we wouldn't focus on Subquery network, right? I don't like the fully diluted valuation, the fact that we basically have 10% in circulation and 90% is not even in circulation, and it's just sitting there as like locked tokens. But yeah, so those are the projects I like. I like Connect's network. I've always loved this project. I love every project that's related to bridging, to interoperability, to DEX aggregation, to multi-routing, to transaction batch processing. So like allowing you to be able to bridge assets from layer 1 to layer 2, and then also execute multiple swaps all in one combined transaction. To me, that's the future. Like there's no question about it. There's nothing anyone can say to like convince me otherwise. So to me, I love Connext. I love, but I don't know wonder what's happening with this project now. Like, is this really, I wonder if it was rugged or something. Like the fact that it's so low, this makes me even more interested. So this could be something, what's happening with this? Now, another project is, so these other coins here. So there's a lot going on here. And wow, sorry, my 3-year-old is here. So hopefully he doesn't bother us. Otherwise, I'll go put the TV on. Hi, Papa. You okay? Okay.
I want to Mommy.
I know. Mommy went to take big brother to school, to camp. You okay? Okay, Baba. Want to come sit with me? Then we go and put something on the TV. This is Zane. This is Zane, a 3-year-old. Now, so there's other projects, but those are really the ones that I'm liking. I also like Numbers Protocol. I like Router Protocol. I like Nibiru Chain. This could be very interesting as like a developer-friendly project that also was backed again by Kraken. Kraken is not some, vanilla ventures company that invests in random projects, right? Like they're very strict with what they invest in. They're very strict with where they deploy capital, and they like this project, right? And it's still like, look at these valuations. And these are fundamentally intrinsically valued projects, right? That are valued at 100 million and below, and no one is talking about them. So, like to me, this took so long to prepare this list, and to have coins that I want to watch and I want to track. And I just don't see how these are not going to be valued higher as time goes on. I also Sovereign is another one, right? So there's just these are like the project that I believe in strongly, fundamentally. So yeah, let's see if there's any other a lot more questions. So if everyone can just give me 1 minute, like 2 minutes, I just need to. I'm gonna turn on the. I'm gonna try to give him something to play with. Sorry. Hey guys. Yeah, Machi Paw Patrol. That's exactly. How did you know? That's crazy. How did you know that's what he likes to watch? All right. Sorry about that. So let's go through a few more questions. So So we went through this utility coins, fundamentally driven coins. And then there was a lot of questions about Doge, Welsh, Omnom. So for me, let's look at Doge, and let's look at Welsh, and let's look at Omnom. And I'll just walk you through what I do personally, right? So when I do these, let me close all these tabs and just keep it focused here. Yeah, it's funny. It's a show is like super addictive. Okay, so if I look at Doge, and if I didn't have a position right now, here's what I would look at. Because I've been steadily buying Doge for a while. So when I look at Doge relative to Bitcoin, I really want assets to be outperforming Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Doge. Those are like my four pillars that I like to look at. I really need assets to outperform those four consistently, or at least temporarily, for me to be even intrigued by them. If they're only temporarily outperforming them, then I would be aggressively taking profit on them. And that's what you do with meme coins. But if they are consistently outperforming them, then I'm more interested. Right now, when I look at Doge, it could be a potentially a good time to start even continuing like to accumulate it because we're close to a bottom. I mean, at this point, I don't know. I mean, is it are we gonna have like I mean, we're like at our third bottom here. Is this the bottom? You know, since 2021? And this is close to being the lowest level we've had relative to Bitcoin in the last 3 years. And when we hit it, we typically have these like massive, explosive moves up. So, Doge compared to Bitcoin is definitely nearing bottom levels, I would say, if we could hopefully hold the 162 Satoshi level, which I mentioned before. Doge ETH is also close to a bottom. I mean, we broke multiple support lines. We're right there, right? We're just every time that we've hit this level in 3 years, we've had a massive move up. So very interested, very intriguing. Doge Sol, we had a symmetrical triangle formation. We broke below it. Now we're lower and lower. It's the lowest we've been since March of 2024. But the same thing, right? I mean, this is literally close to all-time low Doge relative to Sol, right? And it seems like Sol, I think, has extracted quite a bit of the meme coin craze, and I think it's just something to look at, So let me remove this, but definitely, I think Sol is interesting. Now, if you look at Omnom, so if I look at Omnom, which I don't know if there's enough price history here. You might have to just use Dex Screener or Dex Tools, but yeah, it's better to just use. Let's use Dex Screener. And okay, so let's look at Omnom and this one. Okay, let's look at a log. So the problem with Omnom is that we've already had this massive, absolutely crazy 300x move up, and then we went down 80%, and then let me show you. And then we had an 80% pullback, and then we continued to move higher. And at this point, the only way that we can recover to where the previous all-time high was, in actual, which is crazy, is 32x. Like you would want the price to appreciate by a multiple of 32x for it to reach previous all-time high. And right now, is there much support at this level? I mean, there is historically, but it's really only 3 months worth of data that we're looking at that forming this support. So you have to be careful here because you have to take, like, this is what I was saying before, is that it's just important that you keep the numbers in perspective here. Like, yes, we do have some support here. There's no question about it whatsoever. But what if we break below it? I mean, it's literally it's absolute enter the abyss. I mean, so the only other support I see historically on a 1 hour or 4 hour is right here, right? And I've seen these assets so many times, and then we have a little bit of historical support here. I've seen assets like these so many times where they go up 300x and then they go down 98%. Like, just bear that in mind when you're looking to just continue to hold this. Um, I think it's important to remember that uh, major market makers and people who are promoting this as a project itself, um, surrendered their positions with like all of the fear surrounding MEXC and them being like a non KYC that's now flipping to a KYC centralized exchange. And and many people capitulated this when it was down 80%, right? So now where's the demand going to come from? You can see volume waning, right? Typically, you would see volume spiking as a defining indicator of a bottom, right? But we haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen that yet. So I don't. This coin scares me simply because of the fact that it already went up 300x and then now is down 85%, and we barely have any kind of multi-time period support. Like if we break this level, I don't see why we can't go back down to 25, 20, 50 kind of thing. And so it scares me. I think the fact that Doge right now is also looking particularly weak, I think is concerning. We're at like 12 cents at this point. So you really need you need Doge to be healthy for you to have a healthy and strong and spry kind of Omnom. Um, and Doge right now is also just sitting on support. So if Doge breaks below this, then I don't see why Omnom can't go down another 50, 60, 75%. Hopefully that makes sense. I think I've answered that. Another one is Welsh. So Welsh is on the Stacks blockchain, but I don't think we're going to have much. We're not going to be able to see much here, but we could see some. It's the exact same story. Like Welsh is, it just makes me nervous. I mean, do you want to keep holding this? Like, it's already down 91%, and then we have a recovery with higher highs and higher lows, and now it's again flipping back down to lower lows and lower highs. Let's look at it on a daily basis. We're right at support at this level. Are we going to hold it? Or are we not? I mean, if we don't hold this, are you going to be angry when it goes down another 40, 50%, right back to its market cycle low? Like, bear that in mind, right? I think this entire narrative, when you look at it as a project, slowly like faded, right? As like the first Bitcoin meme on the Stacks blockchain. I think the Stacks blockchain itself, its actual fundamental narrative and the hypothesis behind it was very good, but now those times have changed. Conditions have changed. Like the biggest problem I see with the Bitcoin layer 2 / sidechain narrative is the fact that how many other competitors there are. Like, and I talked about this on the last stream, and these are the airdrops that I'm farming. These are the projects that I'm interacting with to be eligible for airdrops. And look at how many competing layer 2 platforms there are. There's Lightning Network, which was the original incumbent. There's Rootstack, which was one of the first creators to add smart contract functionality to Bitcoin layer 2. There's Conflux, there's Satoshi VM, which many of you know. There's Stacks, as you know. There's Botnix, there's Merlinchain. Like, these are all competing platforms that go head to head against basically against Stacks and against each other, right? So let me add some rows and make sure you can actually see this. I think my video was blocking it. Yeah. So now you can see the Lightning Network, Rootstack, Conflux, Satoshi VM, Stacks, Botnix. So this is why I worry about these narratives. So like Doge, I hopefully, the hypothesis is correct that it's a good precursor to things to come when we're seeing GameStop booming, and hopefully we have a Doge boom. And if we do, I don't see Omnom. I can see it continue to boom, continue to recover and move up. Potentially Bitcoin memes start having a resurgence again. But I'm just looking at it fundamentally. Those are my concerns with these projects, So if you're looking to buy them, Yeah, I think definitely you could start buying, like, if you don't have any positions, I think this is absolutely a good time to start dynamic cost averaging in and start looking at creating a position if you truly believe in those narratives that I mentioned. You know, if you do believe in those narratives and you do believe that GameStop is a very good indicator of things to come for crypto as a whole, then I think it's absolutely could be a good time to start DCing in to some of those coins. But that also applies to like SHIB and Pepe and WIF and Floki and Bonk, right? The other major prominent tier one meme coins. I think they would all should all do relatively well. Okay, let's go through other questions. So I think I've answered this. What would you like to hold? What do you think would you hold or reallocate? Timeline isn't super short. If I had to hold these 6 months for a year, I don't. Those coins are they make me nervous because I feel like I've explained it, but if there's anything unclear about it, please just ask. Okay, CryptoMex, I'm always here to help. And then here, okay, same here. I answered these. Okay. So given that I'm a huge fan of your macro and market analysis, I'd like to learn how to analyze the market from you. Yes. So I showed the metrics that I look at in TradingView. The metrics that I look at on the Alpha analysis platform is, I'll show you. So there's a lot, but I'll just give you like the main ones. So the main one I talked through already, which was the at a high level, but I talked through the Bitcoin Wikipedia page views. So this is extremely helpful because this shows you how many people are actually visiting the Bitcoin Wikipedia page. And this one metric alone has just been exceptionally helpful because let me zoom in so you can see it even better. Um, because when people search for Bitcoin, right, and they're just learning about it as an asset class, what do you first see? You see Bitcoin as a featured snippet on the right hand side, and everyone is pointing you towards Wikipedia. So every single time someone goes to Wikipedia Bitcoin's page, it will add one web traffic view. And what I have noticed from our research is that there is a direct correlation between the price of Bitcoin and the amount of web traffic towards Bitcoin's Wikipedia page, Ethereum's Wikipedia page, cryptocurrency as a category Wikipedia page, right? And it's so consistent. It's like every time that we've experienced some type of sustained move up, we've had a sustained move up with Bitcoin Wikipedia page. And the levels that I like to track, and you can see, and I'll make this, I put a horizontal line and let me make it bright green. And I'll change the width to 5. And there it is. So that level, right? This level right here, around like 30,000 Wikipedia page views. That is a very interesting level to look at of where you could see it could be a good time to start paying attention and really tuning into the sector and tuning in. And you could see right here, whenever we have a massive move up and then we see Wikipedia page views declining is a good time to start taking profit and start protecting your gains. So like, let's apply it to now. What are we seeing now, right? So let me look at the last 6 months. What are you seeing now with the trend line? You could see that it's been moving pretty violently down, right? And it's been like that exactly on point to what we said, where I give you that warning on March 11th. And I wrote that in the market analysis is that this is a good time to start exiting. You could see, right? I mean, we literally have just been trending lower and lower and lower as interest has been dissipating and waning, right? And so when someone asks like, oh, well, how did you come up with that assessment? I say, I looked at all the metrics that I was seeing on TradingView and all the quantitative ratios that I mentioned. I looked at waning investor sentiment. I saw retail interest, fading. I saw that the perpetual futures and options market was extremely overheated. I could see that overall Bitcoin's price was at an all-time high or close to an all-time high. I could see meme coins were absolutely going berserk. I could just see things that it's all these factors together. It's multifactorial, right? And I could see all these metrics coming together. I'm like, I'm not going to try to just put my finger in the sky and just hope that I can predict exactly when the local top is. But you could also just sense it that there was immense greed. So to me, now I'm seeing it, and you can see it more and more and more now. So this is a good time to, this is a very good metric. So another metric I like, um, Connor, that you were asking me about, is I also like to look at like a popularity index of different industry terms. So this is very, very helpful, because this basically tells me like Bitcoin relative to Coinbase, relative to Ethereum, relative to NFTs. These metrics are very helpful, right? So Connor was asking me, what metrics are useful on the alpha analysis platform? How could we use it to gauge sentiment? How can we use it to gauge like different levels that are intriguing, right? And I would say it would definitely be Google search volume for key industry terms. It's like on a scale of basically 0 to 100, right? And if you change it to linear, it's even more clear of where we were, right? So like literally look at it of where we were relative to the price of Bitcoin at previous tops. Like we are nowhere near those levels. I mean, it's not even remotely close. Like we are basically close to lows, right? So right now, I think the market is overly bearish for really no reason, other than the fact that they're just not sure, and yeah. So that's another metric. Another metric I like to track is volatility. So this metric helps immensely in being able to show. Let me zoom out so you can actually see it. So this volatility is very useful, because you can see that overall, year over year, volatility has been declining. And like, what is volatility? Volatility is, think of it as the rate of movement, right? It's how much you are shifting up and down from where the average is. So it's the amount of standard deviations that you're moving away, above, or below what the average is for a particular asset, right? So if you have high volatility, you have prices that are moving exponentially higher than what the average is. And if you have low volatility, you have essentially prices that are essentially staying constricted to a particular tight zone, and like an upper bound and a lower bound that's really tight to the actual long moving price, right? Long average moving price. And you could see that as Bitcoin becomes larger and more significant, and as institutional adoption is rising, volatility is declining. Same with Ethereum. The same with other natural gases, right? However, every time that you see volatility stabilize and get to a point where it starts becoming less volatile and even more stable, you see this massive explosive move up, right? Or move down. You have violent movement, but it generally follows the main market trend. So if I look at, like, it's unbelievable. So like, remember what happened during the COVID crash, right? So if you look at the COVID crash, you had volatility declining, and then suddenly, when you had President Trump, he basically started blocking travel from China, if you remember, and that was one of the first earliest indications that this is something that was pretty significant, right? And then we started having a few deaths coming through in February, and then in March we had the entire S&P 500 and the Nasdaq. Everything has just collapsed, right? And it went down 50%. Bitcoin went down 60%. And that's when volatility exploded. So whenever you have very low volatility is when you got to be a little careful here, right? Because we could have a total explosive move up if we have like Ethereum ETF trading begins, and all of a sudden everyone and their cousin are buying, and it becomes very bullish towards the sector, which I think is mostly I don't think that's the expectation from my end. I think the expectation is what I shared. But I don't know if you read, there was an article on Cointelegraph that I helped write, and I probably should have posted it. But it was about my views and like where I feel like the Ethereum ETF is what it's going to do with the price of Ethereum. And I expected like a pretty good pullback, and that's what we've had, right? We went up to 4,000, and then we pulled back down to like 3,200. But so you can see volatility is low. So let me remove these other gases and try to remove some of the noise. You can see volatility is quite low. So just be careful, be prepared for any move. And so what are some other metrics? I think that's probably enough. But if there's other metrics, Connie, you want me to look at, like there's so many. I mean, there's also fear and greed. fear and greed is really just so useful. It's like so useful in being able to see like where we are, and 100 is the highest. That's when people are the most greedy, and you know, 0 is people when are they're the most fearful, right? And that typically happens like when people are just, you know, trying to run for the mountains, right? So I would say just keep an eye on this metric as well. I think it's very helpful in being able to see how overheated or over cold the market is. Um, there's a lot more. I mean, there's hundreds of metrics. There's thousands of assets. There's 18 blockchains that we're integrating data from. Um, this has taken us like a long time, and it's just one piece of our alpha tools that we're building out. So hopefully that helps. Another thing was, is this a good time to launch a meme coin? No, it is not. Absolutely, in my opinion, it is not a good time to launch a meme coin. I do not believe these are the right market conditions for you to launch a meme coin unless you have an extremely active, committed community, and you have some narrative that you're building it around. I mean, this question is quite relative. So I would say you have to decide whether or not you want to launch a meme coin. Do you want to launch a meme coin when the market conditions are bullish or bearish or generally bullish? And right now, I would say with meme coins, you would want to ideally launch them when Doge is healthier and moving up and showing some type of sign of life, right? Because right now it's not really showing a very strong positive sign of life. You really would want it to be above maybe like 13 cents. You know, you want it to be want it to bounce off of this level in a very strong, sustained way for us to be, I would say, a lot more bullish on meme coins. Um, Other thing is if you could potentially start like a you could do like a soft launch without actually tokenizing the project and have the website, have the Twitter profile set up, start, you know, mobilizing support and like and social acknowledgement of the meme. And if people like it and really support it, then I think then they're going to keep clamoring for a token, right? And when they have a token, they're going to want to speculate on it. So I think those are the opportune times to launch a meme coin. So for me, to answer your question, I would say it's not a good time to launch a tokenized meme coin, but it is absolutely a good time to launch a meme coin project. And then when you have the token generation event, you know, when you go live, like a project going through an IPO, then like where you start trading on Uniswap, I think that could be done later. You could decide when's a good time to do that. So my thoughts on synthetic dollars. You know what I should probably do? I should probably post these as okay. Well, I think you can see it anyways. So the questions are about synthetic dollars. So I've shared my views on synthetic dollars. You can just look for it on. You can look at it from just say from Vassal. So if you go here and you say from Vassal Ismail and then type in synthetic dollars, you should be able to see something. You should be able to see a lot more. I wrote a lot more about this. I think I wrote it about Athena. Delta. I'm trying to find the word that it this. So these are some points about synthetic dollars that were created, like the decentralized, algorithmic controlled, non-collateralized synthetic dollars that they had with UST. I know everyone got burned by that, but I did warn everyone. Proud of that. I did warn everyone about UST, but these non-collateralized, you know, decentralized, algorithmic controlled stablecoins, I think you have to be very careful about. USDE and USDN are two like synthetic dollars that were created. So I would say, you know, look at what I posted here about. Just look for the thing called delta neutral basis or delta basis or neutral basis or synthetic dollars, and you should be able to find answers to your question about that. Now, another thing is this I did. Okay. Some people are saying the market has topped. Yeah, so I've shared my views on this. I think I've answered this, I think, concretely at the beginning of the stream. But if it's not clear, Meister, please ask. I'm more than happy to answer that. So walkthrough of token audit procedures. So um, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of things that I use, but let me just show you. So I basically have a folder here that I try to use on a regular basis, and these are basically token audit bots that I use to screen, evaluate, and vet smart contracts before buying some like tiny minuscule 200 300k microcap. So it just depends on what you're looking for, but TTF bot is good, dev selling bot is good. I think I mentioned this to a few people privately. It's a bot that essentially, if you post a Solana address to it, it'll actually tell you um, it'll tell you whether or not the dev itself allocated some tokens to themselves and to other founding like people of influence, like Coles, like KOLs, and it helps you determine all of that prior to the creation of the liquidity pool, right? So prior to the provisioning of the liquidity pool, you want to be able to see which tokens have shifted, which token projects have shifted some tokens to those people's wallets, because when they're dumping into the liquidity pool, you don't want to be like, seeing an 80-90% drawdown. Like a lot of those are rug pulls. So those are the kinds of bots I like. Spy DeFi is good too. There's a lot. I mean, there's just so many. But the ones that I like to use I'll show you the ones that I like to use on the computer itself. So I like to use rug.ai. So I was given early access to it by them. It's interesting. It's definitely an interesting application, I would say, for sure. But you can apply to go on the wait list and try to see. But this is a very powerful platform where you can do cluster analysis, and it shows you whether or not you have high levels of concentration and low levels of dispersion, and you can see whether or not there's relationships between the different clusters, and you can clearly see that, like, this is interesting, right? Like one cluster is controlling 25%, but it's a gnosis like multi-sig cluster, so it's probably not as concerning. But these clusters, this is interesting, right? The fact that there's so many, not a good sign. This is Sandbox. Also, when you click analysis, it gives you like a general score. Heavily compromised. Like, why is it heavily compromised? It's because this is really bad, right? That the fact that the owner can change the balance at any time, that's not a good thing. So you definitely don't want to have a token that where the owner can change the balance. That is concerning. So that's one tool. Another tool I use is Token Sniffer. So Token Sniffer is incredible because this allows you to be able to paste in any contract address. So like, let's look at another coin. It won't work on Doge, but if you let's look at like Bag, right? So if I'm looking at Bag and I want to paste it in, and you could see it's supporting multiple blockchains. So it's not finding Bag. Let me find another one. So it should be able to. Don't know if it has base blockchain enabled though. Yeah, it does. So when you paste in the contract address, it'll pull up the coin. Just give it a minute or so to give you like a high level summary. But I've used this mostly for Ethereum coins, but it's giving you still a score for non-Ethereum blockchain tokens. And you can tell, it tells you a high level. So it's like, okay, swap analysis, and it's pulling some information from Honeypot, whether or not this is a Honeypot. It's telling you that if there's a 0 or a 5% buy and sell tax, you can see that there is no whale provision, so there's no restriction with people holding. All other holders possess less than 5%. That's interesting. Because this is generally it. So that's another level of token audit that I like to do. Also, within Dex Screener, you have some general markers. If you scroll down, you'll have three main competitors who have their own metrics that they track, and then they tell you if there's any red flags. So just do like a quick cursory check. And then another thing is, if you take the contract address and then go to Dex Tools. So if you go to Dex Tools and you have their plan, if you connect their wallet, and you don't even have to connect your wallet if you don't want to, just paste in the address, look at the project itself, and then if you scroll down and you click, see these buttons here, so you can click check audits. And then when you click check audits, it gives you this comparative table where it shows you the audit results that was made by Quick Intel, Go Plus, etc. And it just gives you the ability to look at honeypot risk, buy, sell tax, proxy contracts. Like, is this mintable? Can the tax be modified? This is a huge red flag. Can transfers be paused, right? However, I will mention, you see that their methodology that's being used is not consistently the same. So sometimes they say that there's no honeypot risk, when in reality there is a honeypot risk. Think of it as like a virus scanner, right? So think of it as like a Norton or a Symantec or a McAfee virus scanner. It works on definitions. So if there's no library of definitions of how to identify a honeypot, and if there's a particular scenario that happens where it's not already been seen in the past and it's a honeypot, then it won't detect it, right? That's why I like to use multiple token audit and screening services. And I'm going to add this as a portion of the course, right? So I'll show you the course. The course is on learn.blockcircle.com, but when you're in the course, you'll see that there's a huge amount of content there, and it really covers everything that I think we would ever possibly need to get started. But in the section around, let me collapse this to make it a little bit more readable. But in the section of, let me zoom in, this section 4, so I talk about on-chain trading, software and hardware wallets like warm and hot, and cold wallets, wallet security and revoking smart contract permissions, centralized, decentralized exchanges, trading terminals. But I also am going to have another lesson here about token audit services and how to screen and evaluate projects. So I'm going to add that, and within that, I'm going to go through everything I just went through now. So those are the things I like to look at. Another thing is rug check is another good one. There's also D.fi scanner, which is pretty good. It's fine. I mean, I don't think it's superior to what the other ones I showed you. I think that's enough. I mean, those are the ones that I would probably go through. Those are the ones I use. So that's all I can share with you, right? And then how to screen projects, how to screen tokenomics. So hopefully that helps you with screening the technical structure of the smart contract. And then I'm also going to have another lesson in the course that talks through how I screen projects thoroughly. How to screen tokenomics. I like to use CryptoRank or CoinMarketCap or going through the white paper. Sometimes there's just no other way of doing it. So that's what I'm thinking. Now, questions around Grayscale will have, so like if the Ethereum ETF gets approved, what will happen to the Grayscale ETF? So like what is, okay. So my view on this is that Grayscale is already, they charged 1.5% management fee for the Bitcoin ETF when when trading began, and you could see there was an absolute gigantic amount of monstrous outflow from the ETFs. I'll show you. So this one's good. This website's good. It's BTC ETF fund flow. There's some technical errors with the daily inflow and outflow, and these daily flows are incorrect. But just ignore this. Just look at the top section. This is accurate. But this tells you, if you look at just Grayscale, right? So let's remove these other ones. And let's just include Grayscale. So see, there was a massive, it was 26 billion, right? It started at 28 billion. And then there was a huge amount of outflow up until they finally changed their management fee from 1.5% down to a percent that was much more competitive with the other market options. So it was a competitively priced ETF issuer now, right? And I believe that what they're going to do when ETF when the ETH ETF trading begins is that they're also going to reduce their management fee to a comparatively competitive price with the rest of the other market options. Because why would you buy in the ETH ETF from Grayscale if you can just buy it from any of the other major tier one issuers like Bitwise, BlackRock, VanEck, Franklin Templeton, Fidelity? I mean, it wouldn't make any sense why you wouldn't just use these other providers, right? And you could see just steadily on an incline, right? I mean, Fidelity is already at a point where they have $11 billion worth of Bitcoin, which is incredible. So I love this. So how could you be bearish? Those are my comments about that. So yeah, another question: how to best leverage investor sentiment metrics, market cycle health? I think I've answered that now. Anything else? It seems like I've answered it. Yes, you're very welcome, brother. Anytime, man. And then you were also asking about like everything, multiple sources, confluence of different 100%. So like that's very important. And then you're also saying sometimes you just have to bite the bullet, but usually it's not 80% drawdown from entry. It's 80% from last high. Yep, that's exactly it. That's the problem. What's the big macro factor keeping us down right now? Is it wide economic factor, strength of the dollar? Yeah, I mean, I think I've answered that, but I didn't talk about the dollar much. But I will talk about the dollar here. I'll show you. So I can go through the DXY, which is what I like to track. So the DXY is the US dollar index. So it shows you the strength of the US dollar compared to another basket of government issued fiat currencies like Canadian dollar, British pound, euros, Japanese yen, right? And this DXY metric, just this metric alone on a weekly basis is so helpful for you to be able to see how risk on or risk off we can be. And generally, you want this to be trending lower if you want to be heavy crypto and more bullish on altcoins and more bullish on Bitcoin. And you want it to be trending higher if you're more bullish on like traditional equities and or basically anything that's not risk on. So that would be more like gold, commodities, precious metals. But generally, when this is trending down, it's very good for like Russell 2000, Russell 3000 stocks and like Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. When it's trending up, it's usually generally not that bullish, right? And you could see that if you just add the price of Bitcoin, right? So let's add the price of Bitcoin, and you'll see. So let's add it to a scale. You could see that there's a very clear correlation here that whenever you have, I don't want the Bitcoin market cap, I want the actual price. So here, this. There you go. This is what we wanted. So basically, you could see how it looks compared to the entire sector itself. So generally, for altcoins especially too. So if I'm looking at, let's do like total 2, or let's do like others, right? And this is what I like to follow. So I like to track this. So it's like generally when this is trending higher, you can see the price continues to trend lower. So total crypto market cap for altcoins and Bitcoin USD, it generally is inversely related to the US dollar index, right? And whenever this chopping season that we're in, it's not as helpful. But on a weekly basis, when you have a general trend up, and that's generally not that good, right? For crypto, right? And I mean, you can see that. I mean, it's quite pronounced, right? I mean, it's almost like right here. You have a market top with Bitcoin, and then you have this massive move up with the DXY. So hopefully that answers that question. Now, what are some other questions? I'm going to start the investing and trading course tomorrow. Looking forward to it. I think I've mentioned it before when talking with you, but I can't find it in the channels. I'd like to see what information you try to gather, from what charts to make a macro analysis. Okay, perfect. So yes, I've answered this. I've answered this question in detail at the beginning, and then I've just answered it now relative to DXY. So I've seen you mention a few times you believe in a meme coin summer. Why? I've answered that. I'm interested in the TON network. I was very interested in the Palau ID. Has anyone looked into this? Yes. So I can talk about the Telegram TON network. So obviously TON is Telegram has, I think they have like 800 million users at this point. It's unbelievable. So they have like hundreds and hundreds of millions of users, and literally the hamster, the hamster game that they just had, that had 100 million users. This hamster combat game on Telegram, right, had 100 million users. I mean, it's like it literally, you cannot be like it would. This was 100 million before. Now it's 150 million. Okay, like think about that. That's unbelievable. So, TON blockchain, I would say, has the potential to just continue to go, higher, higher, and higher and higher. I mean, it's the problem is it's already at 16 billion with 50% in circulation, right? And you could see that we still, it's fully diluted value is 35 billion. I could absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, see this explode another 5x. Now, can I see it like, displace and usurp like Ethereum? I don't think so anytime soon, but I would want to track the TON coin development activity and how much are they actually developing as a whole, as a group, right? So I can see there's 2,000 followers. I can see that they have their main code repository here. There's not that many developers and contributing, people who are committing code to the actual chain. So like, let's do this, right? So let's look at their main TON repo, and let's look at their level of commits, and let's look at it for the last month. Okay, let's just give it 1 second. Let's see. So this is back from June of last year. 6 commits of June of last year. 7. Back in January, there was 9. It's really not that much. There's not a huge amount. Let's look at contributors. How many contributors are there? So this is the overall activity. Overall activity has been increasing for 4 years. I'm just walking you through, like, these are my fundamental metrics of adoption, what I like to track, right? I could see that Emilian Nenko has been contributing for 2 years, which is excellent. Almost 3 years. Actually, 3 years now. I know this person has. And then Spy Cheese, 2 years consistently. Neodix is 2 years, but that's about it, That's what worries me. It's only, it's like Ethereum has tens of thousands of smart contract developers and computer scientists lending their brain power towards that blockchain. And I'm just not seeing that yet with the TON blockchain. But it doesn't matter. The fact is that they have an absolutely gigantic user base. And like, I don't see why this can't go up another 3 to 5 to 6, 7x, maybe in absolute market cycle top, or when total euphoria and complete mania is running wild. I could see this going up 10x, but you have to see that if that's the case, then that would be at the same valuation as Ethereum today. So those are things that I would consider for TON. So of course, like, I absolutely love the TON network. Now the Palau ID. So people are asking me about this. So many of you asked me about this. So if you wanted to understand this, what this is, if you go to RNS ID, there's a Web3 digital ID that people can get, and think of it as an e-residency that you can get, a digital residency that you can get to a country called Palau, which has bilateral treaties with the United States, but also with other countries. And you can stay for 180 days per each entry visa. And you basically, people are using this ID, and I've met them at the conference, the founders, and they seemed okay. But if you only have American citizenship or Canadian citizenship or Australian citizenship, and you need to access other crypto services, then you would essentially get a Palau ID, and then you can apply for a KYC restricted exchange like Woo or Binance or now MEXC and all the other major ones, and then you would be able to apply under um, that citizenship slash residency. Now the problem though is that those exchanges also require you to be an actual resident of those countries, like legally. So I would definitely verify this with a lawyer. I'm not providing any financial or legal advice. I'm just sharing with you this is how it works, and this is why they created this type of service. Many of you have done this and like are very happy with it, but you also got to keep in mind that you are going to be added to some type of list, right? And that list is going to be shared with authorities in some way, in some fashion. So just bear that in mind. It's not a completely like safe option where you're going to be able to conceal your tax obligations. Like there's no way around that. Like, whenever you're trying to conceal tax obligations, that's when you get in trouble, right? So those are the warnings I would make around that. Now, on-chain shitcoins seem to have experienced a full cycle pump and dump. What are the signs capitulation has occurred? I've talked about that. I think I've answered that. So how can I set alerts, TVL for various layer 2s and sidechains using Blockcircle alpha tools? Why would we do this? What levels may be significant buying? So how to set alerts on the zone. So how you set alerts on the platform is let's go to a particular just a particular metric that we like, right? And let's go to the Bitcoin Wikipedia page ones that we just did. We can just start from there. And what you do is one way to set an alert is you go to the metric that you like, and if there's an alert button, you should be able to click it. And then when you click it, it'll pop up a prompt box that says, it gives you the name of the asset. So, and then it also gives you the metric that you want to choose. And then you click next, and then you click the resolution. So what resolution you want to look at, what time period, you want to look at on a daily basis or weekly basis. If you want the notification to be set on a simple moving average basis, so rather than only looking at it on one day, you would want to be able to say, if the simple moving average for 2 months of Wikipedia page views is 40,000 and above, only then alert me, right? Or you can just create your own and say, I want, 1 month, 3 months, etc. You can do that. You can set the condition. So I want to say, only notify me if Bitcoin Wikipedia page views is above 40,000. And then you could set the alert frequency. So how many times you want to get it, like once a day or once a week. Set your channel, how often. You can set the name, like type in a custom prompt box and then create an alert. And when you create the alert, you should get this green successful alert box. And then when you go to alerts, this is the other way you set alerts. You just go to alerts. You should be able to see the alert. And there it is, right? So this is the alert we just created. So notify me when page views of Bitcoin's Wikipedia page is greater than 40,000, right? And then if you want to change it, you can change it. But ultimately, if you want to delete it, you can delete it. You can do it within ranges as well. You can say, anytime that the exchange net flow volume is greater than 0, send me an email. Anytime that the options open interest for Bitcoin is equal to 350,000, send me an email. Anytime that X, Y, and Z condition happens, you can get an alert. So that's what we have now. It's single metric, single time period, single condition. However, what we're doing in the future, and I'll show you this, is I don't know where my text went. Okay, here. So let me zoom in so I can show it to you. So these alpha tools. So what we're doing now is we're building out a huge amount. So I just wanted to give everyone like a quick glimpse, but I walked everyone through generally like the alpha analysis tools, and that's very helpful for research purposes. I walked through the alpha alerts. I'll walk through the momentum trading engine. But the Alpha Hunter is something that we want to continue to build out as like our flagship product, and we want to make it so it's as useful as possible for all of you. And what we're doing is we want to have a view that allows you to be able to identify which projects to airdrop to farm for. So any project that is going to have a future airdrop and which ones are worth farming, I want to be able to have like a full tabular view, allowing you to filter to project. I only want projects to farm on the Solana blockchain or on the Ethereum blockchain that have 5,000 Telegram subscribers, that have like 1,000 Twitter followers, that have 600 YouTube subscribers, that have ABC person as a follower on Twitter. Like, I want you to be able to screen and filter down to only a handful of projects that you really feel have conviction in, that you can farm for airdrops for. And I want to be able to have like alpha attached to that, right? So this tool could be massive for us. And we're already building it. I want to have another tool that within the Alpha Hunter that allows you to see undervalued projects. So tokens that are going to be, that are already issued, that already pass like strict token audit procedures, that that are showing promise, that have like growing communities, that have growing Twitter followers, that have growing like positive sentiment towards them, that have at least 1,000 holders, that have like ABC conditions are met, right? So allowing you again in a tabular view to be able to filter down and identify which tokens could be potentially undervalued or mispriced and take a look at them, right? And then set up alerts. So all of these will have alerts attached to them. And then the last thing is I want to build a view in the Alpha Hunter that allows you to identify profitable traders and whales and look at their addresses. So like, whale, like an actual whale contract address or a smart address, right? I want to be able to show you like profitable traders, which traders have the highest success rate with sniping, which traders have the highest win rate for projects while deploying half an ETH each, right? I want to be able to show you which profitable traders are trading across multiple EVM chains, right? Because it's the same address, so we should be able to identify that. So this is like the biggest thing that I would say I'm most excited about. And it's just something that I would say that Crypto Hunter and we've always wanted to do this, and I feel like this could be massive alpha for everyone here. And my dream would be to us to have these tools out and for everyone to use them, and then in Discord for us to be able to just help each other and constantly share this alpha to each other. It's like, oh, I found an Alpha Hunter. There's this project that I'm farming. Are you guys also doing that? Right? We can keep everything centralized to each respective channel. And then let me go back to the questions. So, okay. So I feel like I've answered this. So now still a lot of questions. I'll do my best. So question 1. I don't think I can time anywhere close to the top. Would it be better to try and get into LPS and planning to single side to try, so liquidity pools, and planning to single side to try and sell better with volume and have more established ranges to exit at? And if so, what is the best strategy with liquidity pool lending? Do I harvest and sell and harvest and hodl and harvest and single side and harvest and liquidity pull back? Are all options good options as long as I would be happy with holding? This is the most important point of your question. So whenever you're doing liquidity pool harvesting, or you're trying to provision capital for a liquidity pool, either it's double-sided or single-sided, there's going to be risks no matter what. Everyone always talks about the impermanent loss risk, but that's only one component of liquidity pool management. You also have a risk with the actual asset itself. Like if the smart contract itself is compromised and liquidity is drained from these liquidity pools, you can see that what if the project itself gets completely dumped, and then you have this dual-sided liquidity pool that becomes one-sided instead of having 100 ETH on one side, and then you have 100 ETH equivalent of the token on the other side. You end up just having 100 ETH, right, on one side, and you literally cannot do anything with that liquidity pool, right? It's completely drained. And that's what's happened. It's happened so many projects, right? Where the 50-50 liquidity pool ratio is no longer maintained and everything is broken. It's out of whack. That's literally happened with Beeble, right? The project that I was buying and that I still believe in long term as a SocialFi platform, right? That Samsung invested in and many other prominent VC firms. But those are the risks with those, right? Is you will be in a situation where like it's very difficult to get your liquidity out, and sometimes liquidity is locked. Sometimes it's locked after you lend them funds and you don't realize. And I think also the fact that the transaction processing fee that you're getting late, that you're receiving is it's not that attractive, honestly. Like you're getting like 1 or 2%, 5%. Maybe in outrageous scenarios, we'll be getting a lot more than that. But there's a huge amount of risk. Right? Like there's a huge amount of, it's not necessarily counterparty risk, but it's hold risk. It's like the impermanent loss is a real risk, and you're going to have to hold these assets with no control over when you can buy and sell them. I think that's what worries me. Now there's other new creative ones, Claire, that go into where you can have like partly collateralized liquidity pools. You can do there's so much you can do. So I think if there are some more sophisticated liquidity pools that you're like protocols that you're trying to experiment with, you could send them to me and then I'll look at them. I think that's the best way. You're welcome, Polly. It's my pleasure, man. We're more than happy, brother. I think I've answered your questions, but if there are any other ones, don't hesitate to ask. Is there a good strategy or resource you would recommend for swing trading? If I'm swinging alts, for example, do I choose the ones that I outperform against, et cetera, on a version of a heat map? But the easiest thing to do would be scale out slowly and use higher time frames. Heikin-Ashi candle, change color of oscillator that becomes negative to mark when I fully need to exit. Would you recommend something else? Okay. I think I've answered this, but I'll elaborate a little more. So what I do is I use the momentum trading engine has been unbelievable. So like I'll show you if I'm going to traditional candles and I want to, let's remove these two. And I want to do it for Solana and I want to use, let's use the old momentum trading engine version 1. Okay. So this momentum trading engine version 1, it's given us since 2023, it's given us a 68x. Okay. Think about that. Okay. This is a 68x. Now, what's the significance of that? That is in the green line chart. Okay. So it's basically at the highest, it was 84x. And now it's been outperforming buy and hold Solana, which is the blue line chart, by a factor of 6x. Okay. Think about that. I mean, just think about how incredibly powerful the momentum trading engine is for this particular trading configuration, right? It's been short on Solana since almost like 158, 159, and now it hit 134. It hit profit, and then it trailed the position, and then it got stopped out, but in profit. So for me, I would say I would absolutely explore Momentum Trading Engine 1, and then Momentum Trading Engine 2 is ready. I just need to have time to be able to write a tutorial for it, and then I'll release it to everyone. So hopefully it helps. But I would say that this is absolutely something you should be able to look at for swing trading, because just look at how it did back in October, right? So when it did it, when it went in October, it would open a long back in September 28th. It went into profit. It closed the position. It opened a short. It nailed the bottom. It closed the short and opened the long on October 17th all the way. It opened the long from like basically $20, even less, $18, all the way up to $65. Now that is ultimate swing trading, right? One trade in 2 months. Roughly, this has been about one trade a week, but you see, it's done a phenomenal job. And it's been almost 2 years now. You're talking about 18 months. So the more time goes, the more I believe in this particular configuration. And when you have the engine added to TradingView, you have to choose the time period and the asset and make sure that these parameters fit and are profitable, right? This is not for every asset. It has to be fine-tuned and calibrated for every asset. So yeah, you were asking, okay, so Machi's asking, is the momentum trading bot only optimized for Solana. No. So this configuration that I've created is just a configuration that we have come up with Alex and I and many other prominent like quant traders in the trading engines chat. Over the years, we've come up with this configuration and we've made it better and better and better. And we've been testing it since 2023, and it's been working. It's been working like tremendously well. Now, if you want to find, and so there's other configurations that are being mentioned in that chat for like AVAX, AVAX, and for like GMC, and for like some of the GMX and some of the other, top 20 cryptos that are, but well, I don't know why we would even spend time focusing on other coins if we already have a configuration that works really well for Solana USD on a 12-hour basis with traditional candles. And you just use this configuration. And this configuration basically tells you this is the time period that you want to backtest it for. Then there's the entry conditions, like when to enter a trade, when to go long, when to go short. And I've set it to, I want my CCI, my commodity channel index to be 16. I want my T3 stacked moving average to be 6, right? I want my B to be 0.618, fine. I also want it to only enter if the momentum is trending higher on a one-day basis of at least 10%. I also want it to only enter when the slow stochastic indicator is trending higher and higher, right? So, and then so those are my entry conditions. So I've set my backtest time period, like how long do I want to backtest this trading strategy? I've set my entry conditions, right? When to enter a trade. I've set my exit conditions of when I would like to have the trade close, whether or not a stop loss invalidates the trade or a target profit invalidates the trade, or I have enable trailing stop loss. But when it hits 2%, it's going to lock in those profits and protect them by systematically and dynamically shifting the stop loss up and up if it's a long, or down and down if it's a short, to try to minimize to eliminate your losses entirely. And that's what I'm doing, and that's what I'm doing with this swing trading engine, and it's working. So I would say this is definitely one way. Another way, if you don't want to use this type of solution, because version 1 you can't plug in directly to a trade execution engine like 3 commas or coins rules, etc. But version 2 is 100 times more sophisticated, and it's much more capable. And there's like hundreds more of parameters and values you can change. And you can plug in version 2 to 3 commas and Mizar and Cornic spot and coins rule. And you basically, you have the ability to do that with version 2 without having to use like a third-party automation service like Zapier or Pipedream or any of those other like routing solutions, right? And then Samco, do you need a paid version to use of TradingView? You're using 12? Yes, you need a paid version to use any custom time period. However, version 2 that we have is not using 12 hours. It's using 1 day. And this one trades much less and has been unbelievable. Like, it's not, I don't care about the win rate being 27%. What I care more about is the fact that it's outperformed buying and hold Solana for 4.5 years. To me, you just cannot get better than this. I mean, to me, it's like, yeah, there was a huge amount of like, trepidation or uncertainty around this particular consolidating range between like 10 and 30. But what it does really, really well is it exits positions quite early, right? So let me show you. So when you look at the average losing trade, 5%. Look at the largest losing trade, 10%. So the largest losing trade with realized loss is 10%. Let me go through the winning trades. So the average winning trade is 219%. On average, each trade that it takes, it makes 57%. So it's like the average winning trade, 219%. The average losing trade is 5%. The largest winning trade was a 10x. The largest losing trade is a 10%. So think about the disparity there. That is extremely attractive, risk-adjusted returns, right? That ROI is outrageous. I mean, it's literally a 280x. And now Alex has, AKA Crypto Hunter, he's taken this configuration, right? And he's made it even better now, and he's pushed it to 300x. And I think he did it by adding the slow stochastic, but I'm not sure. I think we have to see. He did something else. He changed the slow stochastic, and then he made some parameter value. So I'm going to change that, and I'll push it live when I do the tutorial too. But he also was able to push the percent profitability to above 30. I think he pushed it closer to 35. And he thinks he brings the drawdown further low. And this is no leverage. There's no leverage. There's no percent of equity above 100. Like, you're only using 20% margin for long positions, 20% margin for short. Like, this is, you're going to be, I think this is going to be very pleasantly surprised and impressed with what we're doing with this too. So hi Jitesh, how are you, brother? So you missed a question on Sol and Whiff. I thought I answered that. Wait, let me look, brother. 1 second. So I missed the question on Sol and Whiff. Probably just haven't had time. I'm going through all of them now. Where is Whiff? This one. Wait, did I answer this question? What's your overall view on apps versus infrastructure play? I answered this one. Yes. Okay. So what are your targets for Sol and Whiff? So let's do that quickly. So when I look at my targets for Sol US, I think my targets are more determined by how they are relative to Bitcoin, how they are relative to Ethereum and Doge. So I would say that let's look at just Sol Bitcoin first, right? So when I look at Sol Bitcoin, I would say that my target for sure would be like above 3, right? So that would definitely be something I would be a lot more fearful at that point. I would be a lot more careful up when we're at all-time high to definitely take some profit and be very aggressively de-risking and de-escalating my positions. I would say Sol ETH also the same. I would say anything above 5%, 6% would be time to be fearful. And then Whiff, I would say, oh wait, there's someone on my door. Just give me one.
Well,
hey guys, sorry.
Yeah,
so
continental French, but that was 30 years ago.
So I'm basically, so those are my views on Solana, and I try to look at it relative to Bitcoin, relative to Ethereum, and then I'm also now I want to look at Whiff. So let's look at Whiff. So the thing is with Whiff is I really try to look at it relative to Doge as a whole, and right now it's you know, you can see that it's pretty violently moving down. And if we look at it on the Heikin-Ashi level, it's now just sort of consolidating, right, between 0.11 and 0.14. And so that's concerning to me. You know, I would want to see whether or not it bounces off this support here and whether or not it continues to move up. But those are my views. And I would say that obviously when you look at Sol USDT, let's look at it in US denomination. What would be my market cycle top? Because I know that's what you're asking. Its previous all-time high was 210, and of course I would see it absolutely break that level. Now, once it reaches that level, it would be very bullish because it would enter price discovery mode, and we just have to see, right? We have to see how it goes. If it goes above 200 and it's outperforming Bitcoin, it's outperforming ETH, it's outperforming Doge, and it's outperforming, you know, a few other prominent, you know, I would say layer one blockchains, then we have to see like, okay, how stretched is the market? Because at that point, the USDT value of that asset is less important than the actual value in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and you know, Doge terms, right? So hopefully that answers. Let's see what the other questions are. There's a lot more questions. I don't think we're going to be able to go through all the questions. I was hoping we would, but there's so much. Another person asked, I'm constantly debating transitioning to holding 50% Doge. Swapping Bitcoin to Doge hurts. I think I've answered this. I've answered this. What are the some of the biggest market cap traded on exchanges? So I talked about the crypto watch list. So these, especially the ones marked in green, are the ones that I would say are fundamentally strong, intrinsically valued projects with actual utility, with actual products, with actually active communities, you know, and those are the ones that I believe in long term, and they're valued at 100 million and below. So to me, these are not just some, you know, bullshit pump and dump shilling coin that are being pushed by some KOL influencer or content creator. These are coins that actually have significant backing from tier one private equity firms, and I think they would be valuable. So I would say those. I think I've answered all the questions. Now, what's this? What do you think of Pendle? And would you buy this on a dip? So let's look at Pendle. The problem with Pendle is I'll show you. So Pendle has just been moving up and up and up since October, right? And just have to keep an eye on this. It makes me nervous, you know, because just look at this. It continues to hit this little range here. Right now, we've broken support 1. We're trending towards support 2, and then trending towards support 3. So if we can hold this as support and continue to trend higher, then I'd feel a lot better about Pendle. But all of these projects make me nervous. They just make me nervous, the DeFi ones. Because this could easily just trend lower and lower and lower and go back to $3. And if that's the case, I know you wouldn't be happy with that, you know? So I think just be careful. Be careful with these tokenized trading ones with real world asset value. I mean, the fact it's already valued at 1.26 billion, it's, you know, it's competing with like the Ondos of the world, because BlackRock's investing in these tokenization / real world asset projects. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Pendle. And then also, if I look at Pendle, let's look at Pendle BTC, and we can look at Pendle ETH. It's underperforming Bitcoin, but it did break out of a 1-month downtrend, but now it's trending back down and retesting it now. So I would be nervous. So I would definitely, my TLDR is that I would proceed with caution with that. All right, I think I've answered all the questions. We've been on for a few hours. All right, thank you very much. I hope this was helpful.